Okay, now our reading plan is going to take us back to the book of Acts. Let's just kind of take a look at where we've been so far in the reading plan. So we've read John, one of the Gospels, about Jesus. Then we read the first 15 chapters of Acts, where we saw the early church, and we met Peter, and then Paul's conversion, and then Paul's first missionary journey we saw. And we jumped over to Galatians, which was a letter that he wrote to the Galatians, the church in that region that he had started. And then we looked at James, and remember, James was one of the leaders in the church at the council in Acts chapter 15, who helped to decide that issue of, how are we going to deal with these Gentiles, this huge Gentile influx. Okay, so now before we get back into some of these other letters, Thessalonians and Corinthians, we're going to come back to Acts, because we're going to go to now Paul's second missionary journey back in the book of Acts. Okay, so it says that Paul first went to Derbe and then to Lystra, where there was a young disciple named Timothy. And so I want to show you what we're doing here, what we're looking at. So his second missionary journey, what he wanted to do is he wanted to go through those same regions again that he had gone to on his first journey. And you can see he's going to sort of hit a lot of those, right? So they're starting down here in Antioch. They go up into in the north a little bit. They go back through Tarsus, Paul's hometown. They move into Derbe and Lystra. Remember, the first journey, they ended up going by way of the sea and came around this way. On the second journey, they're going to come this way, and they're retracing their steps through this area in Galatia right here. So just wanted you to see that as you read through chapter 16. Timothy, by the way, notice that you meet him here in this area in Derbe and in Lystra. So this is where Timothy's from. He's from right here. And Timothy is someone that Paul's going to groom as a pastor, as a leader in the church. And we'll see that he writes a couple of letters to Timothy that we'll cover later in our reading plan. It says that they went from town to town, instructing believers to follow the decisions made by the apostles and elders in Jerusalem, from back in chapter 15. So the churches were strengthened in their faith, and they grew larger every day. So this is great. The churches are growing. Paul, he's encouraging them once again, and the churches are growing. Now you can read some more of this. He continues, he gets called, and they go into Phrygia. So you can read that they go into here, and then they're going to go up into here. And so it's kind of helpful to know, sort of get a visual for this as you read chapter 16. They meet Lydia in Philippi, and we're going to look at the book to the Philippians a little later. So just be aware of that as you read about Lydia there in Philippi. So again, if I go back to the reading plan, we're gonna do the Thessalonians, we're gonna do the Corinthians, we're gonna end up here in with reading Philippians and Ephesians. There's 1st and 2nd Timothy. So all these things we're gonna get to later in our reading plan, and we're learning about it now in Acts chapter 16, because Acts is the history book that goes with all those other letters. I thought it was interesting, though, to just kind of point this out. Paul and Silas, one day, they were going down to a place of prayer. They saw a slave girl who had an evil spirit that allowed her to tell the future. And so she made her masters rich by telling those fortunes. So you can read it for yourself, but Paul casts the demon out of this girl. So the masters naturally get upset because they just lost their revenue. So it says that a mob formed against Paul and Silas, and the city officials ordered them stripped and beaten with wooden rods. And you can read what happened. They get thrown into jail. There's this miraculous thing that happens while they're in jail. I won't spoil it for you. And then they end up leaving prison and going back to Lydia's home, this woman that they had met earlier. And that's basically chapter 16. So a lot of mapping, a lot of stories in there. So go ahead and read Acts chapter 16, and we'll see you tomorrow for chapter 17.